This is page 3 of the linear programming and trig review. It's talking about a carpentry shop making bookcases and desks. And if I look at the end, it's saying how many of each product should be made. So let's say x equals bookcases and y equals desks. And just to be clear, let's say not just bookcases and desks, but number of bookcases and number of desks. So here I've got bookcases on the x-axis and desks on the y-axis. Now the profit is going to be some function of x and y, or some number of bookcases and desks. And that's going to be given, well, for a bookcase it's $40, so 40 for each bookcase, and $75 for each desk. Now, there's a couple limitations here, namely that we're talking about 600 hours for woodworking and 240 hours for finishing. So let's see, bookcases are 5 hours of woodworking. Oh, I should do that in the same color. 5 hours of woodworking. And desks are 10 hours of woodworking. So 5 hours for each bookcase plus 10 hours for each desk has got to be less than or equal to 600 hours altogether. By the same token, 4 hours of finishing for each bookcase and 3 hours of finishing for each desk. 4 times the hours of finishing for a bookcase plus 3 hours for each desk has got to be less than or equal to 240 hours. Solving for y, I have y is less than or equal to negative 1/2 x plus 60. And on the other hand, I've got y is less than or equal to negative 4/3 x plus 80. From here, let's draw those graphs, or maybe put up the last two constraints, that the number of bookcases that he makes has got to be bigger than or equal to 0, and the number of desks that he makes has got to be bigger than or equal to 0. So here's that greater than or equal to 0. Now, the bookcases, or the hours of woodworking come out to be 60. Let's go up by 5s. So here's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and it's going down 1/2. Though, I suppose since I'm going by 5s, it's really down 5/10, but that reduces to down 1/2. Again, I'm going to make this as accurate as possible so I can cut down on any calculations I need to make. Down 1/2, down 1/2. This does not look good. Down 1/2, down 1/2, down 1/2, and so on. Now, the next part is the up 80. So there's 60, 70, 80, and it's going down 4/3. Down 4/3. Down 4/3, down 4/3. Here's my two constraints. I can plug in points to see where it works, or I can look at the fact that it's strictly less than in all of these cases and know that this is my feasible region. Now the key points here are the vertices. I've got this point, one right here, one right there, and one right there. These points come out to be, let's see, there's 60, or 0, 60, meaning 0 bookcases and 60 desks. I've got this point right here, which is at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 0. And I've got one point right here, which I can't really tell where they are. But luckily, I could figure out where these two lines intersect. Now I know that these are inequalities, but since I want to see where the lines actually cross, I can pretty much treat them as equals. And since they're both already set equal to y, I can say negative 1/2 x plus 60 equals negative 4/3 x plus 80. Getting my x's to one side, I have negative 1/2 x plus 4/3 x equals 80 minus 60 is 20. I'm going to multiply everything by 6 to get rid of those fractions. So I have, let me add a little bit more space. Negative 3x plus 8y equals 20 times 6 is 120. 5, wait a second, plus 8x is 120. So 5x equals 120. X equals 24. If x is 24, I can plug it back in to either of these equations, or both if I want to check it, and say y equals negative 1/2 times 24 plus 60, or y equals negative 12 plus 60, which is 48. So this point right here, I'm saying x is 24 and y is 48. Now, I just have to test these points. Oh, and there's one more point at 0, 0. Pretty useless point because you're not going to make any profit. But let's put it in. The profit when you make 0 desks and 0 bookcases is clearly 0. The profit for 0 bookcases and 60 desks is going to be, well, 40 times 0 plus 75 times 60. 75 times 60 gets you 75 times 60, 4,500. Much better than 0. The profit for 60 bookcases and 0 desks is 40 times 60 plus 0 times 75. 40 times 60 gets you 2,400. And the profit for 24 bookcases and 48 desks is 24 times 40 plus 48 times 75 gets you a total of, let's see, 24 times 40 plus 48 times 75, $4,560. A total of $60 more than just making 60 desks. But that's what you should do. Make 24, was it bookcases? Yes. And 60 desks for a profit of $4,560.